Hi, Stephan. Thanks a lot for coming and joining with me in the value creation series. So, just to quickly introduce Stephan for the audience, he is the managing partner at Eir Ventures. Previously, he was associated with Novo Seeds, and currently his fund is focused on investing in Nordic region, and slowly he has, I think, started expanding to other regions as well. Welcome, Stephan.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephan. So, Stephan, we'll as we discussed, we'll wrap it up in maximum 10 minutes so that audience can enjoy the conversation, and we'll make it short and crisp. So, given that you have a very long investing record, I wanted to ask, maximum 3 questions. And my first question to you is that in your investing, would you invest in companies where the CEO is an experienced biotech executive, or would you also allow and take chance for the new CEOs?
Yeah, no, in principle, a simple question. And you could say, of course, most people would prefer an experienced CEO who maybe have sold several companies and have a track record. That goes without saying. But I must also say this industry is still growing. There is a great number of good companies with first-time CEOs, and I would say for me as a person, and you're right, I've been investing now for more than 15 years in the life science industry, based here in the Nordics, and typically been involved in a lot of company creation and early stage financings, and have seen a lot of first-time CEOs do an excellent job. So I don't think it is in any way something that one should regard as a big problem, that there is a first-time CEO, because the important thing is the sort of the acumen, the presence of the CEO. So we would like to see CEOs that have the get stuff done gene expressed, also have a good understanding, obviously, of the program, the development plan, and where he or she is taking the company, but also be coachable. If you're a first-time CEO in particular, the investors would like to see that you listen. And maybe the hardest of all is that to have an awareness that it's very rare that it's the same CEO who is the CEO of the company from its inception all the way to its ultimately its exit or growth to commercial stage. So as a CEO, be aware that this is maybe also a conversation and a realization you should have, that even though you enter the company as CEO or start the company, or maybe you're co-founder, at some point in time there may be a transition, shouldn't be something that should be very adversarial. Hopefully it's something which can be done in understanding with everyone, and there could be still a role in organization. But just to say that first-time CEOs are a name of the game. We see that in many companies. Yes, we would always prefer to have these silverbacks that done it 5 times before, but they are rare. And so first-time CEOs are fine, but they have to be sort of have the right presence.
Strong listening skills. Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. So my next question moves to scaling the company. And as you know, scaling is a challenge for every company, no matter it is in biotech or tech. So given your investing track record, I'm sure you might have seen companies whom you might have invested at very early stage, and it has grown big in terms of size, in terms of pipeline, in terms of capital allocation, and so on. Okay. So in that respect, I wanted to see if you could share 2 things. One is any positive aspects you saw that SEO has scaled it very well, without naming the company, and also if any learnings you might have seen that yes, he could have done better by focusing on XYZ, so that those young entrepreneurs who are looking to scale up their company can take a cue from these learnings.
Yeah. Again, Saurabh, that's a broad question, and but happy to sort of reflect a little bit upon it. If I take some learnings and follow on maybe a little bit from the first question you asked, I have seen companies with great potential, but where, for instance, the question of a CEO transition or roles of the founders or the interaction between the founders, i.e. what we can call people stuff, have actually really deteriorated and in some cases almost ruined companies. So I think, again, founders are great and they have to be committed, but also take the tough discussions up front. Maybe there is a life in the company's history where a new CEO is needed, or a new clinical chief clinical officer, or whatever, or CFO, or whatever expertise it may be. And this is a discussion that should be sort of respected and be expected also, because it is, as companies grow, they will need to grow the competencies, and this is one point. So if you don't get this right, if you are sort of unable to understand, or the team is unable to take on board a new member in the right way, that can actually be really damaging for the company. And then conversely with that, sort of companies where I've seen it grow well is where you have this core team of the company, that you really have a management team that brings different competencies and different expertises to the table, and work well as the company expands. There will, in any company's life, be bumps on the road. There will be bad data. There will be developments that you didn't plan for. And so you need a strong team, and you need a good interaction also with your investors and your board to come through this. And this required sort of a high level of personal integrity, and also good sort of good respectful interaction. You don't have to be friends with your board. You don't have to be friends with your investors. They're different roles, but you have to have a trustful and competent interaction. What I can say, successful companies, obviously goes without saying, Saurabh, that drug development is expensive. So the successful company have been able to get the financing required to develop their programs. And so that requires obviously an ability to interact with investors, and to always have a plan B and a plan C. Maybe this is another learning, that the successful companies, often it was plan B or plan C that succeeded, not plan A. I'm not talking against plan A, but have plan B and plan C for your development as well as for your fundraising.
Exactly. So it's similar, like, you cannot predict the future, but you can prepare, right?
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
So thanks a lot. So now we'll rapidly go to the last one. And and this has fascinated me a lot, because I'm digging much deeper into this serendipity in life sciences, or even serendipity in any of the companies. So if you might see the history of any company, even giant companies, it was not what they are working right now. They were not working when they started, doing that. Yeah. It was all putting analogies and so on, right? So if you see the example of vaccines, the way vaccine was actually discovered was by Louis Pasteur. You might know the history, that, right? The chicken, the cholera that happened, and when he used to put in the healthy chicken, they used to die. But then once he came back after a couple of months, and he used the same culture that he did before doing that. And when he put in the chicken, he was surprised that nothing happened actually. So, so he was thinking that he was going in the wrong direction, but actually it was a kind of a serendipity. And we talked about several examples, Dramamine and many other things. So the idea is not to tell that, okay, we are just not do anything and suddenly something will happen, but it's like, of course, you are doing something very seriously, but working with an open mind, with that cultural mindset, to put analogies and use that analogies in some other areas, for example, and that could lead to the serendipity. So my question to you is that, in your investing history, have you invested in some of the companies where initially the focus was different, but while working on it, it led to something very interesting and something like that?
Yes, no, I think, so Rob, that happens. I mean, not only in biotech, in world, in life in
Exactly.
general.
Exactly.
And I think the right mind, the curious mind, are able to catch on to this, right? And it's difficult because a lot of things that surprise observations, surprise discoveries, they are maybe nothing. Maybe they're just nuisances or disturbances. But from time to time, things happen, and you'd see that. Yes, I have seen that in companies where suddenly a discovery that or a result that was initially regarded as negative enabled ultimately the company to pivot into a new indication or improvement of the molecule they're developing. So it is a very good way to. I mean, it is an integral nature of the successful companies that serendipity also plays a role. I think it's very difficult to plan for, but you can say luck
Exactly.
follows the well prepared. So
Exactly.
be well prepared, but have an open mind when looking at data, looking at events, and be able to pivot is something that actually more and more you'd see is playing into the advantage of smaller companies in biotech, and obviously the bigger pharma companies, given their big organizations, given their sort of many levels of management and very cumbersome decision process. Often they are unable to actually exploit serendipity, but small biotech companies can do it. So
Exactly.
an advice to a small biotech company is, yes, it should be your home turf to build value out of these serendipitous observations. But of course, it should be done in a way so you don't run after any distraction, but keep your general focus, but with an open mind to things that can offer opportunity to you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Stephan, for your valuable suggestions, and I'm sure the young entrepreneurs would be ready to take some key out of that. So thanks a lot.